DZRJ 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines, proudly brings you Equal Justice. Find out the hottest legal issues of the week and hear the analysis. And now, here are your hosts, Attorney Ador Tolentino.
Yes to peace, no to BBL. Facebook. Okay, if you want to follow me.
Attorney June Kicho.
Kailangan ano pa yun, comfort level eh.
Exactly.
And Attorney Tiki Tabuhara.
Vice President Binay, pati si Pinoy, pati si Executive Secretary. Chief. Good afternoon once again, Philippines. It's another hour of equal justice, and with me today is an expert on animal welfare, and he will be talking about animal welfare laws, particularly the Anti Rabies Act, and also Animal Welfare Act as amended by RA 106/31. I'm your host, Attorney Tiki Tabuhara, and please stay tuned with us for the next 2 hours as we discuss the issues of animal welfare, rabies, how to deal with the problem of the spread of rabies, and the programs and actions being done in order to curb these problems among stray dogs and stray animals in the Philippines. That is transmitted through a bite.
Through a bite. It is not only through a bite of an infected individual. So it is not through just licking of any pet or a bite of any pet or any mammal. Again, mammals have teeth. So they're animals, they will bite. Again, as defense, etc. Dogs are particularly, because of their close contact with humans, people have the highest incidence with dogs.
Of course,
the highest.
And they also bite. Dogs are vicious and then they bite. They tend to attack people.
Well,
unlike cats, medyo matamlay pa, di ba?
Cats may run away.
Okay, what about rats? Meron din yun?
Rats will, again, I haven't come across any, but I've come across one that takes care of a rat. But mainly, a rat will bite if you step on it.
Okay.
Or if you're asleep and then you have food on you or whatever. But mainly kung
dogs,
it's a defense.
Mostly dogs.
So a dog will bite in defense.
Okay.
If somebody is, if it's, they call it the provoke, meaning it's defending. It was hurt. It was pinalo siya, nasagasaan siya, or it's in pain.
Ano siya, parang he was parang infuriated or ginalit yung aso.
Or if it's defending, because they're again territorial.
There's a perception that he's going to be attacked, he will attack also.
It may be attack, but it may be also a reflex.
Okay.
And they also will do that out of fright. So again, it is what we'd like to educate everybody is, because dogs have teeth and they have canines. That's what they call canine. They have canine teeth, the fangs. So they will bite again, not because they're rabid, but because that's their nature of being a dog.
Okay.
So when they bite, this is where the dilemma lies, because everybody thinks, or there is a notion that continues to go around, that all dogs are rabid, or any bite, maski bakunado na yung dog, rabid yung aso. This is what we would like to correct in the industry, in the Philippines, for the public and to the medical, because every bite seems to be treated as a rabid bite, which is
wrong,
which is not true.
Okay, but I also have been bitten by a dog maybe 3 times in my life, and one of them was in my face. No? So what the doctor said was that observe the dog for the next 2 days. If the dog dies, then you have to get your rabies shots. But my problem is it goes straight to my head. So sabi ng doctor, if you have to do it immediately, and we have to take precautions because sa ulo yan, diretso sa brain yan. So unlike if you're bitten in the leg or the arm, an extremity, it will take time for the poison to get to your body. No? So how do you, aside from looking for the dog or observing the dog na namatay siya, what are the other symptoms that would show that you would need the rabies shot after you get bitten?
The number one rule again in any bite is to don't panic. So don't panic and then see why did the dog bite. So was it, did you step on it? Were you playing with it too rough? Or was your face too close to the dog? Was the dog in heat? Inaawat mo ba yung nag-aaway na aso? So these are the things that you have to ask. Number 2 is, there is always an observation period. If it is a stray dog, please have yourself vaccinated already.
Okay, that means that you weren't able to catch the dog and observe it. So, kinagat ka, tumakbo yung aso, stray dog, what you're saying is that immediately you have to take a precaution and have your vaccines because you can't observe the dog.
If it is a stray dog, meaning yung dog that is maybe
Gala,
off the street,
gala. So, there's no opportunity, Doc, to observe the dog.
One is to first see where the owner of, because most of what I've been seeing is a lot of these stray dogs, stray, may area na. Because here in the Philippines, not everybody has a gated house. So yung pet nila,
Gala.
But the government is having all these initiatives to vaccinate in the barangays. So actually, lahat may bakuna. Pero kasi walang gate yan, naglalakad sila. But the barangays again, the ordinances are saying, you should not have a dog roaming around. Because the dog that's roamed around will be treated as a stray dog and has the right to be impounded and eventually put down if there is nobody. So that's why we're telling everybody, part of responsible ownership is, kung may pet ka, how do you keep it na hindi gala siya? Okay. So if there is a dog that bit you off the street na naglalakad ka dito sa Makati Avenue, biglang may dog na naghabol sa'yo tapos kinagat.
Hindi mo kilala, you don't know who the dog is.
Of course, the human nature will say, hospital. First thing to do is, again, don't panic. I would clean that wound first.
That's a human hospital, no?
Yes,
go to a hospital.
you go to a human hospital. I would clean that wound first with running water, automatically. Running water. And if you have any soap, let that bleed a little, okay, and then put betadine. Next thing is to see where the dog, who owns that dog. Because may ari yan. If it's a deep bite, please go to the hospital. Now when it comes, if you have time, look for the dog because you will not go back to the place, you will not find the dog because the dog will disappear. So if you can have somebody look for the dog, please look for the dog. So when you go to the hospital, if it is a stray dog and you don't know the history, I would recommend to have shots given, preventive.
Immediately?
Not immediately, because again, they will do immediate if it is like what you said, if it is in the face.
A head wound. But just a question, Doc, no? From the time you're bitten by the animal up to the time that you're already at the point of no return na, delikado ka na, what is the time frame?
Okay. The reason why dogs die and why they call it the observation is because rabies is caused by a virus. Now the virus is shed in the saliva, and when that goes to your bloodstream, that will go to the nerves, yung bahay nun sa utak. Okay. So that will eventually reach the brain
of the person who's
of the person.
Okay.
That's what that will cause that's why they call it in Filipino yung nauulol. Okay. Nauulol sila because
you go mad.
It's a mad dog. They call it also in English a mad dog disease. Or because the dog is, or the animal, the virus is in the brain and it's causing all these hallucinations, paralysis of the laryngeal muscles.
How long does it take?
It can take years.
Ibig sabihin, from the time that you're bitten by the dog up to the time the symptoms or the disease takes effect on the human, what is the time frame that you have to look out for?
Again, depending on the site of the bite. So anything in the extremities, the virus moves millimeter by millimeter in a year.
So mabagal lang.
Mabagal siya, millimeter by millimeter. So it doesn't have to be it shouldn't be on the spot.
So it could take years. It's you're bitten in the toe. It could take years before the virus would go up to your brain.
Yes.
Ganun pala yun.
The classic example is Fernando Po Sr.
He died of
the grandfather of Senator Grace Poe.
Tatay ni FPJ.
FPJ. He was bitten, I think he was licked actually, or bitten when he was young.
Okay.
But he died, I think, 30 years after.
Ganun.
Okay.
So it was ignorance on his part.
Well, he did not, he ignored the bite.
Okay.
So any bite of an unknown origin of the dog, do not take risks.
So you can basically get bitten and then relax ka muna for about a month and see what happens, and then you can just have your rabies shots done after that. Ganun ba yun? Or will it still have effect after that period?
So that's why there's they call it the observation period. Because a dog that is rabid, a dog that is na meron ng rabid, we call it the rabid dog, or the dog whose virus is in the brain. Pag nasa utak na yun, the dog has no choice but to bite. Kasi naulong na yun eh. So it just keep biting, naglalaway siya. And in 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days, or even less, that dog will die. Sigurado yun.
Sure.
Sure, if it is a rabid dog.
So, that's, you observe the dog for 2 weeks, nakakulong yan. Pag namatay yung aso, that's the time that you have to alert yourself and have the rabies shots.
That's when we have first it tested.
Okay.
So, it's...
Patay na.
Patay na.
Okay.
So, if it happens, if you can't quarantine the dog, tell the owner, observe mo yan. So the key here is constant communication. So check mo lagi yung pet na yan. May visit or call. Now if that dog dies, don't bury the dog. If in 2 weeks and the dog dies, the head of the dog has to be
autopsy.
checked.
Autopsy.
Yes. It has to be submitted to a laboratory. So there are many laboratories in the Philippines that where you can check it's the brain. So the challenge though is a lot of people don't have it tested because pupugutan pa yung ulo.
You mutilate the dog.
Who would do that? You know? And then if, like kung nasa probinsya ka.
Ay, patay din aso eh. What do you care?
But
I mean, the
also-
dog's dead already. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to eventually open the dog up and check if the dog is rabid.
Yes, but a lot of the labs will ask for the head only. They don't want the body. So the owner's like, why will I cut the head?
Bigyan mo na yung muna.
And number 2 is, kung nasa probinsya ka, yung head may not be accessible. The laboratory may not be close to your house.
Okay.
So there are more labs now in the Philippines. It's mandated by law already. So the Bureau of Animal Industry has been actually having more laboratories in the Philippines. So you can bring it to the nearest laboratory testing. And if you can't, the head has to be frozen.
To be preserved.
To be preserved.
Okay.
Kasi nabubulok yan eh. So that's the only way. So, like we have a lot of inquiries or there are cases na kinagat yung tao. They want the dog euthanized or killed because may rabies yan. But it is, again, what was the nature of the bite? Again, not all dogs are rabid. And why put down a dog that is not rabid?
Not rabid, oh.
Yeah, so the only way is to have that 2-week observation period. If that dog dies, please have it tested. That's the only way you can test.
Okay. So, well, again, the challenge is how to talk to the owner and quarantine the dog. Kasi kung hindi nag-cooperate yung owner, yun ang problema. But, you know, I noticed that under this Anti Rabies Act, this RA 9482, merong multa yan eh. If the owner does not allow his dog to be checked or to quarantine, may multa ng 10,000 or something like that eh. May minumulta siya. And also, the owner who refuses to have his dog subjected to anti-rabies shot is also subjected to a fine.
Yes.
May fine din yan eh. Kasi it's mandatory for all dogs now to have anti-rabies shots eh. And if you bring your dog under the law outside to walk around, it has to be in a leash. Otherwise, may 500 peso fine yan eh, di ba? But, you know, my question is, who enforces all these laws? I mean, we know the rule is there in the RA 9482, but who is the primary enforcer of this act? Is it the PNP, the NBI, or the military, or sino ba?
Good question.
Oh, kasi I see the law speaking of all sorts of fines. You know, you do not leash your dog, you do not allow him to be quarantined, or yung mga ganun, no? Refuse your dog to be put under observation pag may kinagat. There's actually an ordinance in Marikina which actually prohibits pet ownership in certain depressed areas. So that was questioned actually in court, and it's now in the Supreme Court. So you know, based on your experience, would that ordinance be valid, or is it parang anti-poor?
Well, there are two things. It can be. I mean, they're both correct. Because if you look at it, it's bakit? Pang mayaman lang ba yung aso?
Correct.
But the reason behind that was there are too many dogs in depressed areas. That's the reason. But you know, you will always have that aspect na bakit yung mahirap pa hindi pwede mag-aso. So
Okay.
the actual there should be a common solution
What is that
to
solution?
address this problem.
What is that solution?
Well, isusuyuin mo yan. You have to, parang isusuyod mo yan.
Okay. So what do you think is the solution?
Spay and neuter is the most
Kapon.
kapon yan.
Okay.
Because there are too many strays. Other countries and other governments, other cities will impound that and euthanize them.
Okay.
But again, because this is the age, this is the time when, why would you euthanize it? Kasi mahirap yung aso yan. It's not a bred dog. So, ganun ba yung tao na kasi walang breed, papatayin mo?
So, human.
Yeah, and then, but again, if you impound that, saan na ilalagay yan? And then, if you take that home, can they be good pets?
So you think that this ordinance went too far by saying the bawal. So you're proposing actually solutions by saying that yes, these people in these depressed areas can actually own dogs, but there have to be certain conditions.
Yes,
Okay.
because that's where that whole responsible pet ownership, which is what you stated earlier. When you have a dog, it's parang, well, it's hard kasi like to say, you have to feed your dog. A lot of people have so many children, hindi nila kaya yung pakainin. Anak na anak lang sila.
So RH, parang RH. Yeah.
So with
Irresponsible parenthood.
yeah, but if you put in the whole religion thing, parang it's going too far.
Okay, now going to that number, you're talking about numbers. There was a Quezon City ordinance which was passed recently, which was highly questioned, no? Which basically said that pet owners cannot own more than 4 pets in their household, regardless of their income. So, is that valid or not?
Well, again, there will be points of discussion there.
What do you think?
One is, if there is going to be an ordinance, and if there's going to be tax, where will that tax go? To what?
No, bawal yung basta more than 4 pets in any household, regardless of your income, your capacity, bawal.
No, they'll say, pwede, babayad ka lang.
So you have to pay a tax.
Yes.
Now, if you can't pay the tax, what happens?
Multa.
So you keep the pet. Let's say you have 15 pets, you were fined 50,000 pesos, you get to keep them.
I'm not sure if
Or they will get the pets.
I'm not sure if they're going to confiscate. And again, if you're going to confiscate, who will take care of them? And where will that go?
Tanong natin kay Dr. Camel.
Okay. Because again, if you look at the problem, tama ba yung solution that is being recommended?
What do you think? Is that the solution to the problem?
When I was looking at the proposal, it was what I read in the papers. This bill was created because of the increased number of rabies deaths in Quezon City.
Marami ba? Makati is 0. So what about Quezon City?
I'm not sure if maybe 1 or 2. I'm not sure.
Konti lang.
But there is, I know, in certain areas in Quezon City.
So Novaliches, mga ganun,
Fairview. Basta
Payatas.
it's in the areas close to, because the number 1 province in the Philippines with the highest human deaths is in Pampanga.
Okay.
And because this landlocked tayo, that's magkapit-bahayan. So next thing, syempre, Bulacan will have, and the closest to Bulacan is Quezon City.
So Novaliches area.
That area.
Ako, doon pa naman ako nakatira.
So dyan lahat yan. So that's where we actually have to concentrate.
Okay, Fairview.
Concentrate that area. Pero you look at that area, kaya naman tao yan. It's too, sa lawak.
Well, this District 2, medyo low end siya.
Ang daming eskinita, ang daming sulok. You know, there's, if you go to Bulacan, may mga bundok yan. You go to Pampanga, ang daming bundok yan. So there is this whole stray population that's moving around. So that's why Quezon City has. So if Quezon City has rabies, do you think the bill of fining owners who vaccinate their dogs, who have pets, the answer? Because the answer was, dahil may rabies. Yung sagot dyan, di ba dapat bakunahan, the massive vaccination is the answer versus taxing. Taxing, yes, I believe that to create awareness and to create some reforms, there has to be tax. But a lot of people are, tax fear already. Sobrang lahat natin na tax. Everything's being taxed already. Where is this tax going? What are the programs we're going to do? Will there be more shelters, more vaccination programs? This is what people are asking for.
Okay. So, with that, we have to take a break. We'll be back. Please don't touch that dial, and we'll be back with Equal Justice.